Inflation is theft. Yes, inflation is theft. Consider this. We are told that the first computer back in 1946 was bigger than the size of your car and cost over 120 million rands in today's terms. Today, our cell phones basically do everything that a computer can do and cost much less. We are also told that advancements in agriculture produce more food from the same land. Advancements in manufacturing produces more goods from the same set of labor. So, why do we have inflation? Why do prices go up over time? Welcome to another episode of the Money Revolution. Of course, this is your podcast where we empower one another to build wealth through the sharing of information and ideas about how money really works. Now, I'll be your host, Mmasejela Mantsho, and in today's episode, we are tackling a topic that affects each and every single one of us. Yes, every one of us. And that is inflation. Prices are going up. Bread costs more. Petrol is rising. School fees, electricity, meat. Basically, everything is more expensive than it was a year ago. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself, why? Today, we will show you that inflation is theft. Now, let's start with what they taught us back in economics class. They say that inflation is the general rise in the prices of goods and services. That's the textbook definition, but the more I studied, the more I realized that that's not the cause. In fact, that is just an effect of inflation. The real question then is, what causes prices to rise in the first place? We're going to look at two historical examples. The earliest recorded inflation was in 330 BC. Remember back in episode 3, we unpacked that the first coinage as money was in 550 BC. So, what happened in 330 BC? Alexander the Great conquered Persia in that specific year. And during the war, his kingdom was diluting its silver by mixing it with other cheaper metals. Think about it like this. It's like adding more water to your Oros drink. It becomes weaker. When the public found out that the government was diluting the silver, they raised their prices of goods and effectively demanded more silver than before. The rise in prices came as a result of a weakening of the silver. If the silver had stayed the same, prices of goods and services would have stayed the same as well. Effectively, the government of Alexander the Great was stealing value from its people, and the response was a rise in prices. Inflation is theft.
Somebody stole your money. Someone stole your money through a process called inflation.
Let's take a step back. In episode 2, we unpacked the properties of real money. For something to qualify as money, we said that it must firstly be a store of value. Secondly, it must be a unit of account. Thirdly, it must be a medium of exchange. And lastly, we said that it must be durable. Whereas currency is a certificate or a claim by the bearer to the real money. Remember, in episode 3, we also spoke about how the value of the certificates drops if the storehouse issues more certificates than the amount of gold and silver in the store. In China, this is exactly what happened. Around 1020 AD, when the Song dynasty was preparing to go to war with Mongolia in the north, they started issuing more certificates to pay for wartime supplies. But their gold and silver reserves remained the same. When the public found out, this collapsed the value of their paper certificates. The public effectively demanded more paper for the same amount of goods as before. This is inflation. Prices went up because the value of the paper went down. By 1280, the Song dynasty's economy had collapsed and the country had went into a civil war. Now, in both of these examples, prices of goods went up when the value of the currency decreased. Also, in both examples, the value of the currency decreased because the government was secretly diluting it. Like somebody who secretly pours water into your oros. It's theft. This is inflation. When governments print more currency, whether it be it in rands, pounds, or Zimbabwean dollars, without increasing its reserves, the currency becomes less valuable. So, what happens when there is high inflation? The real damage of inflation isn't just the prices going up. It's how it messes with our human behavioral patterns. Because when prices are rising fast, we stop saving. We stop thinking long term. We rush to spend money now because we know that it will buy us less goods tomorrow. Inflation pushes society into survival mode. It always ends up in civil unrest, and it pushes people to even flee their country of descent. Let's take a look at Zimbabwe, for instance. Zimbabwe gained its independence in 1980, and according to the Zimbabwe National Statistics Agency, inflation remained relatively stable, reaching a high of 15% in 1995. But suddenly, in 2004, it spiked to 113%, then to 156% in 2008. This period corresponds to the end of the Congo War of 1999 to 2003. During that specific period, the Financial Times reported that Zimbabwe was spending more than $25 million per month and an estimated total of $166 million, almost 2.5% of its GDP on that Congo War. By 2008, the Zimbabwean currency had become so weak that the government had to issue a 25 billion Zimbabwean dollar note. Yes, one note, just to avoid the amount of paper in the streets. Yes, inflation is theft. Mu-Afrika, what has happened in the past in Persia, in China, in Zimbabwe, and other countries can easily happen in South Africa. But there is a way that you can protect your family and your stokvel savings from runaway inflation. Gold and silver preserve value when there is runaway inflation. And that is why my family and our stokvel are accumulating silver coins in preparation for the greatest wealth transfer, which will be caused by inflation. Thank you for joining us on this fiery episode of The Money Revolution. If you found this episode insightful, please hit the subscribe button below and share it with someone that you care about. And to get notified about our next episodes, hit the notification bell and share your questions with us in the comments sections. Let's wake up the masses. Let's understand how money really works. And let's take back our socio-economic power, one conversation at a time. And remember, if it's paper, it will perish.